As Mia closed her bedroom door, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone. And then, in the stillness of the night, she heard it again, a whisper. This time, it spoke her name. The Whispering Shadows, Chapter 1, The House on Blackwood Street.
Mia had never planned on moving to Blackwood Street, but when she found a Victorian house for a low price, she couldn't resist. The real estate agent barely made eye contact. He handed her the keys, muttering about history and previous owners not staying long. She pulled into the driveway. The house loomed over her, its tall rooftop sliced into the sky. The paint was chipped. The windows were dusty. The porch creaked under her feet. It just needs some fixing up, she told herself. She stepped inside. A wave of cold air wrapped around her. The house smelled of aged wood and something faintly metallic. The movers brought in her furniture. Their voices echoed in the empty space. One of them hesitated. A man with tired eyes. He set down a box. "You're staying here alone?" he asked. Mia frowned. "Yeah." "Why?" The man glanced at his co-worker. He opened his mouth, then shook his head, and left. She finished unpacking. Night had fallen. The house was silent. Silent. No traffic. No crickets. Just nothing. She climbed the stairs, heading to her bedroom. A faint whisper brushed against her ear. Her breath caught. She spun around. No one was there. "It's just the wind," she told herself. She closed her bedroom door, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone.
Mia woke up to the sound of whispering. It was faint, like wind moving through cracks in the walls. Half asleep, she brushed it off. Old houses make noises, right? But as she turned over and pulled the blanket tighter around herself, she heard it again. Closer. A soft, drawn-out sound. Not words exactly, but not just the wind either. She sat up, her pulse quickening. The room was dark except for the dim glow of the street lamp outside. Her phone, charging on the nightstand, read 3:12 a.m. She held her breath, listening. Silence. With a sigh, she shook her head and laid back down. Just my imagination. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the windows. The events of the night before felt distant, almost silly. She laughed at herself as she brewed coffee in the outdated kitchen. Then she noticed something. The hallway mirror, the one she had cleaned the night before, was covered in smudges. Not random streaks. Handprints. And they were too small to be hers. A chill crawled up her spine. She swallowed, forcing logic to take over. Maybe the movers touched it, she reasoned. Or maybe it was already dirty and I just didn't notice. But as she turned to leave the hallway, she caught movement in the mirror's reflection. Her breath hitched. A dark shape, standing in the doorway behind her. She spun around, nothing was there. Her heart pounded as she turned back to the mirror. The smudges were gone. Mia tried to shake off the unsettling feeling from that morning. But the image of those tiny handprints on the mirror lingered in her mind. By evening, she convinced herself it was nothing. Maybe she had imagined the movement too. Stress. That's all it is, she muttered as she set up her new bedroom. As night fell, she turned off the lights and slid under the covers. The house groaned with the occasional creak of settling wood. Normal sounds. She forced herself to relax. Then came the whispering. Soft. Close. MIA's eyes snapped open. Her heart pounded as she listened. The sound was clearer this time, like several voices overlapping. She turned her head slowly toward the hallway. The mirror stood there, facing her open bedroom door. The whispering was coming from inside the glass. A lump formed in her throat. She reached for her phone, using the screen's glow to push back the darkness. But as she lifted it, she froze. The mirror. Her reflection wasn't moving. She sat up in bed, her real self trembling. But in the mirror, her reflection remained perfectly still. And then it smiled. MIA let out a choked gasp and lunged for the lamp switch. Light flooded the room. She turned back. The mirror showed nothing unusual, just her pale, terrified face staring back. Her stomach twisted. She grabbed a blanket and threw it over the mirror, covering it completely. "I need sleep," she whispered shakily. "It's just my mind playing tricks." But deep inside, she knew the truth. Something was wrong with that mirror. And it had noticed her. MIA barely slept that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that smile, the one her reflection had given her. By morning, she had made up her mind. She needed to understand what was happening in this house. She spent the day exploring each room, searching for anything out of place. That's when she noticed a small door in the ceiling of the hallway. The attic. Grabbing a chair, she climbed up and pulled the hatch open. A rusty ladder unfolded, leading into the darkness above. A thick, musty smell filled her nostrils as she hoisted herself inside. Dust swirled in the faint light from a single dirty window. The attic was filled with old furniture covered in white sheets. Cobwebs clung to the rafters. But in the far corner, something caught her eye, a small wooden chest. She hesitated before opening it. Inside, beneath layers of dust, lay a leather-bound diary. The name on the first page made her skin crawl. Eleanor Whitmore. MIA flipped through the pages, heart racing. The entries were messy, written in shaky handwriting. One passage stood out, its words underlined repeatedly. "He watches from the mirror. I try not to look. But I see him watching me at night. Smiling. Waiting. If you see him, it's already too late." A chill wrapped around MIA's spine. Her breath caught as she turned the page. Something had been scratched into the paper with deep, jagged lines. "Don't let him in." Suddenly, a loud creak echoed from below. MIA gasped, clutching the diary. Someone was in the house. Or worse, something. MIA's breath came in short, sharp gasps. The creak had come from downstairs. She strained her ears, gripping Eleanor's diary tightly. Silence. Maybe it was just the house settling, she told herself. But she didn't believe it. Slowly, she climbed down the attic ladder, her hands shaking. The hallway was dimly lit by the fading evening light. Then she noticed it. The blanket covering the mirror was on the floor. MIA's stomach twisted. She had covered it last night. She took a slow step forward, her reflection coming into view. For a moment, nothing seemed wrong. She looked pale, her dark hair slightly messy. But then, her heart nearly stopped. Her reflection blinked. But she hadn't. A cold wave of terror rushed through her. She took a step back. The reflection didn't. A sick, twisting grin spread across its face, wide, unnatural. MIA's legs felt frozen. Her chest tightened as her reflection's lips parted, whispering something too soft to hear. Her entire body screamed at her to run. Then, in a voice identical to hers, it spoke. "You found me." The lights flickered. The air turned ice cold. MIA stumbled backward as a sharp, deafening crack split the air. The mirror shattered. Shards of glass exploded onto the floor, reflecting twisted, broken images of herself. And in one of the fragments, she saw it. A dark, shadowy figure, standing right behind her. MIA spun around, but there was nothing. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She grabbed the largest shard of glass, gripping it so tightly her fingers stung. "I need to get out of here," she thought, panic setting in. But as she took a shaky step toward the door, a whisper brushed against her ear. Low. Raspy. Too late. The door slammed shut. And the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room. MIA's breathing turned ragged as she pressed herself against the wall. Her fingers trembled around the shard of glass. The silence stretched on, thick and suffocating. Then, footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Coming from the hallway. She squeezed her eyes shut, willing herself to wake up. This isn't real. This isn't real. A cold breath brushed against her ear. You shouldn't have looked. MIA's scream died in her throat. The lights flickered back on. The room was empty. But the mirror was gone. Only shards remained, scattered across the floor. The largest piece still reflected her, but something else moved in it. A glimpse of a dark figure, melting into the shadows. Her hands shook as she picked up Eleanor's diary. This house held answers. If she wanted to survive, she had to know who Eleanor was. And what had happened to her. Digging into the past, MIA spent the next morning researching. Old newspaper archives revealed Eleanor Whitmore had lived in this house in 1923. A young woman, beautiful, wealthy, and missing. One article caught MIA's eye. Local heiress vanishes without a trace, only a broken mirror left behind. Her stomach churned as she read on. Neighbors claimed Eleanor had become obsessed with a mirror in her home. She spoke of a man inside it. A man only she could see. He whispers to me at night, Eleanor had written in her diary. Says he wants me to stay forever. MIA's blood turned cold. Eleanor had disappeared. And now it was happening again. A sudden knock at the door made her jump. She wasn't expecting anyone. Heart pounding, she slowly walked to the front door. When she opened it, her breath caught in her throat. A frail, elderly woman stood there, her eyes wide with fear. You live here now? The woman asked in a hoarse whisper. MIA nodded. The woman's hands trembled. Then you don't have much time. MIA's pulse pounded in her ears. She stared at the old woman on her doorstep. You don't have much time. The woman's voice trembled. Her eyes held something worse than fear, certainty. MIA swallowed hard. Who are you? The woman glanced over her shoulder, as if something was watching. Then she stepped closer. My name is Margaret. I used to live here. Before Eleanor disappeared, MIA's grip tightened on the door frame. Before Eleanor disappeared. That was over 100 years ago. I was just a little girl back then, Margaret continued, her voice barely above a whisper. But I remember. I remember the way she used to stare at that mirror, whispering to herself. Except she wasn't talking to herself, was she? MIA's stomach twisted. The man in the mirror, she muttered. Margaret flinched. You've seen him, haven't you? MIA hesitated. Then gave a small nod. The old woman's eyes filled with sorrow. Then I'm afraid it's already started. The curse of the mirror. Margaret stepped inside. She glanced around nervously. My mother used to warn Eleanor, she said. Told her to stop looking in that mirror. But Eleanor, she couldn't stop. She said he called to her, whispered her name at night. MIA shivered. It sounded all too familiar. One night, Margaret continued, Eleanor screamed. We heard it from our house next door. By the time anyone got inside, she was gone. The mirror was shattered. MIA swallowed. Did they ever find her? Even though she already knew the answer. Margaret shook her head. No. And you won't find a body either. Because she's still here. A chill ran down MIA's spine. What do you mean? The old woman's lips trembled. She's part of it now. Just like he wanted. MIA's throat went dry. Margaret grabbed her hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Listen to me, she hissed. You have to leave. Tonight. Before it's too late. A gust of wind howled through the hallway. The door slammed shut behind them. MIA jumped. Her heart pounded. Margaret's eyes went wide with horror. Oh, child. You've already let him in. A whisper drifted through the room. MIA. Her blood turned to ice. She wasn't imagining it. Someone else was here. And they were waiting.